like her Kunst of music. String quartet.
Fantastic mood from lunch onwards for the whole day with the beautiful texts of Thomas Mann. He was a terrible friend for Tristan. I noticed the pattern here.
I'm repeating my request. Please defend Debussy. Music is divine. Hello everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of What's on Vienna, your immersive guide into sometimes overwhelming world of classical music and arts events in the city.
It is now officially the cold-terrible weather season here in Vienna. For those of you who live in the city, you know what I'm talking about. The temperatures have gone into not negative, but it feels like completely winter mode. All the more reason to go to concert halls and events and stay warm. I am going to go first, and I will start with this particular type genre. No, it's a type of concerts, not a genre, which we mentioned, I think, for the first time in our last episode. And this is when you bring famous actors, sometimes also poets and writers, to read texts, and then you have musical selection, which is hopefully well done and goes well with the text, and this is a concert reading performance, and Konzerthaus does a lot of these ones, and the one I'm going to mention is a whole particular cycle of its own. It's a 9-concert cycle in the Schubert Hall, which is one of the medium, smaller sized halls. And it is going to be focused on just one book, but they're going to read the whole book within this 9 concerts. And this is Thomas Mann's Buddenbrooks. Thomas Mann is celebrating, we are celebrating, he's not celebrating anything, the 150th anniversary this year. And Buddenbrooks is the novel that he won Nobel Prize for. So the whole cycle is dedicated. I don't know, the book is really huge, so now that I'm saying this, that they're going to get through the whole book, I don't think that's possible, right? Even in 9 concerts. I don't know, maybe they will, they probably will. So they have different people doing each reading, so different actors, and then different musicians who are going to be playing, and different musicians, not just different people, but like completely different instruments and chamber music. So it goes from solo piano all the way to a flute and harp duo, which is the first one that I will present now in a moment. I think it's really cool. The programs there where they were mentioned in detail seemed extremely tastefully chosen, and that they would make sense with the music. Some of the concerts did not have the program written out, but there is high expectation that they will do equally good job with those ones. So the first concert, the reading, it's called Poetry and Music Cycle, features the Grand Dame of Austrian theater and cinematic world, the actress Barbara Petrich, and she's going to be accompanied by a flutist Piccinini and harpist of the Vienna Philharmoniker Miss Lennartz. Their selection of the program is really, really cool. I thought they go all the way from Bach, back in the day from Bach, to Richard Strauss. Obviously, the pieces that they are doing are transcriptions because there isn't much original repertoire for these 2 instruments, but should be really interesting, should be really nice. And she is going to be obviously starting the whole cycle, going from the beginning of the book. The book, as many of you I'm sure know, is not the most uplifting. What I personally forgot, maybe didn't know, is that it is kind of based on his own family, because he's also from Lübeck, and this surprised me a little bit. I don't know, maybe shouldn't have surprised me. So yeah, I'm very interested, very curious about this type of cycles, and the time of it is also really interesting. This is something that Vienna Konzerthaus has been known for doing traditionally. This is their 12:30 to 1:30 series, so it is like a lunch concert, and in old Viennese tradition, people would actually spend their lunch break at the Konzerthaus and listen to a shortish 1-hour concert or presentation in that
I didn't realize that these readings are.
Yeah, so you can get fantastic mood from lunch onwards for the whole day with the beautiful texts of Thomas Mann. but that is what it is.
Okay.
Definitely interesting. I will for sure go to at least one of them. I'm very curious how it is, so I hope I'll see someone there.
And another concert at the Konzerthaus that might be interesting is with the Quatuor Ébène. They are again in Vienna. They have a cycle at the Konzerthaus with Belcia Quartet shared with them, and now this is going to be their first concert this season. One of the greatest quartets in the world for today, and they will perform 3 string quartets, one by Mozart, one by Debussy, and one by Brahms. So the Mozart quartet is the one from the set of 6 dedicated to the father of the string quartet, Józef Haydn, and this is, I believe, the only quartet in minor, A-moll, I think, from this set. And in generally, he has, I think, just 2 string quartets in minor out of all of his string quartet works. So it is particular in that way. Also, there is a legend that he composed this work when his wife was giving birth to their first child. And apparently he was running back and forth supporting her and writing this quartet. I don't know. And also there is a legend that some of the motifs, some of the elements are imitations of the cry during giving birth, which, listening to this music, you wouldn't think it's too elegant, too smooth, and I don't know. Not true, yeah. I don't know, but this work was going through centuries accompanied by this legend. Okay. So some kind of breathing and lamento thing you can recognize, but honestly, without this anecdote, you would never think about it. Although it's kind of possible in general, if we talk about Mozart, he imitates a lot in his music, like expressiveness.
But then this is, of course, not to distract you from what you were saying, a gigantic topic of discussion, philosophical topic of discussion, is that this programmatic part of music, does it even matter if you don't really hear it? And if you know about it, how much it affects your perception that you think that's it, right?
But it's not even a programmatic piece.
I mean, I know. This information. No, this is a very, very, very big topic, and there is, of course, no consensus on that topic. So, sorry.
No. Distract you. Yeah, I mean, there is a danger to distract me, so you should be careful about it.
And then Papa Haydn, of course, he's a papa of father of basically every genre.
Right?
That's true. Like, what is he not a father of?
That's true.
String quartet, piano trio, symphony, piano sonata. Like, I don't know.
It's scary to
He's
think
not
about.
Papa of opera. Like, there's like just a handful of things.
Not for him,
Yes. So.
But it's also a philosophical question. The destiny of evolution of arts and all the development, how much it is like, would it go through some other person?
True.
And talking about that, we come to Debussy, which work they will perform that evening. The only string quartet by Debussy. He wanted to dedicate it to Ernest Chausson. But it seems like it didn't come to this point. They were very close friends. I mean, the Chausson was supporting Debussy a lot and professionally, but at some point their friendship started to collapse, and it was not purely about their music and their thoughts about music, which is also important, because Debussy went a different direction that Chausson didn't really approve, and even for this string quartet he kind of pointed out things that Debussy would want to be undetected, as he wrote in his letters, and didn't appreciate the ones that Debussy considered actually important and interesting. So also there was some kind of situation with lectures that Chausson organized for Debussy, and Debussy gave just half of them, and then Chausson had to give money back to the subscribers, although he organized the whole thing to help Debussy. So I don't know if you're a Debussy fan or scholar, please come into his defense. Why was he so unreliable?
But may I distract you with another question?
No, it's very dangerous, I told you.
This is a big question for me. I don't know, maybe some of you have also thoughts and would like to share it. It has always been very difficult for me since I was a child, and up to today nothing has helped improve my understanding of this. The whole point of dedications, like it's just for us, like I open the score, it says dedicated to so and so, I will read it, okay, good. Sometimes I will recognize the name and think, oh, curious, and sometimes I will not know it. But it seems like it was such a big thing, and back in the day, and I understand that if the composers themselves were already like very well established and they were dedicating it to some like powerful people or other colleagues that they respected, but oftentimes they would tell you, this like young, I don't know, Beethoven dedicated it to Haydn to help his career. Like I don't know, do you also sense the weight of this dedication as such an important thing?
Yeah, I think as a creator,
like a cute gesture, but I mean, like
it is obviously it's a cute gesture, and as you mentioned, there are many reasons for that. Like especially Beethoven sometimes dedicating to some powerful people who would also help him financially to create further, like this kind of situations.
But why would this powerful person care? Or an established composer, someone dedicates the work to them if it's like a no-name person?
I think it depends on the person. I mean, mostly it's about the creator. If you want to have it, because it's a gift. No, it's quite an honor. So I think it's a very nice gesture. But I believe it can be very pleasant if some writer or composer dedicated a piece. I mean, but of course, after centuries, when some names are losing their importance in the common human knowledge or memory, then it's
okay. Sorry for the sidetracking.
So you believe it's just if you were to write?
I don't think it's as big of a deal.
Yeah,
as somehow it seems to
that's
have,
true.
You know, it carries so much weight. He took dedication away.
Yeah.
He gave dedication.
Yeah.
He gave dedication for so and so to get money. And I'm thinking, why? It's just, I mean, it's nice and it's elegant and it's an honor, like you're saying. But really, that it's such a power tool that you are punishing people by taking away dedication.
It might be also a tool to resolve your anger, or like with Beethoven, he dedicated to Napoleon his third symphony and then crossed out the dedication. You know, of course Napoleon, I believe, didn't care so much, but for Beethoven it was a big thing. Yeah. So it was
anyway. Sorry. Now back to Debussy.
But it seems like this dedication is not such an easy thing. That always some kind of especially when composer dedicate to performance often somehow for some reasons don't perform it, and then they change the dedication, so it's never
smooth,
simple,
right?
never smooth.
That's what I mean. It's just so weird.
That's correct. And even in this podcast, if you remember, we had at least 2 or 3 cases of discussing. Maybe I'm too focused on that, but this dedication always have some small things.
Yeah.
And so that had this financial kind of dubious situation. Also, Debussy was engaged to a daughter, like family friends of Chausson, and then broke the engagement. That was also created some.
So he has a terrible friend for Chausson. I noticed the pattern here.
I'm repeating my request. Please defend Debussy. Music is divine, but it seems like he was not very reliable. But I don't know.
But the quartet is great music anyway. So
yes. So. With Chausson, it also didn't go well musically. And the third one is quartet by Johannes Brahms. So he treated the quartet genre extremely high. He had very high expectations, standards, like hohe Kunst of music, string quartet.
Well, Not very surprising.
Not surprising, but to what extent, knowing how he was writing and how he treated like other genres. For example, he destroyed 20 quartets because he didn't want to publish them. He literally destroyed them, and he almost didn't publish these ones. So there are 3 string quartets, and from this opus there are 2. This is they're going to perform the D minor quartet from Opus 51, and this one is dedicated. I'm sorry, to the very famous doctor. He was in the chirurgy, so he was a surgeon. Sorry, and Billroth. And there is even a street in Vienna, Billrothstrasse, quite a long one, where there are a lot of
houses.
The doctor, how do you call ordinaries? Like yeah. So I even
doctor offices,
like literally a lot, and very good doctors. I even went on that Billrothstrasse. So that quartet dedicated to him. He was extremely important figure in the medicine sphere, and he was an amateur musician, and he was friend of Johannes Brahms. He played violin and piano, and Brahms even sent him some scores before publishing, so they have had very good relationship.
No fights, no dedications taken away.
It seems in this case it went, not bad. And of course, like a tiny interesting detail about this quartet, that Brahms also used this motif of FAE. Right? Do you pronounce it? I have problems with pronouncing letters in English, and which stands for frei aber einsam, and so it means free but lonely, or free but alone, which was a motto of his other friend Joachim that we discussed in one of the previous podcasts. With him, he also had problems with dedications, so you can see this motif, but a bit changed, like in his sonata, not his sonata, but in the sonata with the name FAE. Of course, each letter stands for a pitch, for a particular note, and that Brahms, Dietrich and Schumann wrote for Joachim as a gift, and so it's kind of a work from 3 friends. So the same motif is also in this quartet. So go and try to notice all these beautiful elements in this program.
It's hard to disagree with Brahms. The string quartets are obviously kind of pretty much the height of all of the genres and chamber music genre. It's a very respectable way of spending your life, dedicated to playing string quartets with people whom you will be spending multiple hours a day for the 30 years of your life, if things go smoothly,
and more if
even
things
more
go smoothly,
become more of your family than maybe your family will be, and maybe even more of you than you are. I don't know. Like, string quartet is an incredible genre. On this very serious note, I'm going to introduce 2 things which are completely unserious, and for our long-time viewers, you will be surprised. I will not be talking about opera, and I will not be talking about even any other houses other than Konzerthaus today. I'm staying in Konzerthaus. This season they are offering fun. I shouldn't have said it with such a face. Fun quest, like events, I don't know, like basically like possibilities to visit the area and the backstage and learn about the building of the Konzerthaus, which is of course a gorgeous building with multiple halls, very complex with multiple halls, and just like a palace of music and art. But anyway, so this is for children of ages 6 and 11. So if someone wants to take a kid for a little fun activity, it's an activity. It's interactive. They claim not much else
kind
is
of a
said.
quest.
It's like a quest, interactive. I don't know. I guess they get to run around backstage, but they also get to learn a lot about the building in fun ways.
Yeah.
If I were a kid, I would have loved something like this. So
I would go now and run around backstage.
Yes. So it's for ages 6 and 11, and there are multiple dates throughout October. It might be also offered in November. I didn't look that far, But I think it's really pretty cool. And the next thing, speaking of cool things, I don't know how cool that is, but I'm tempted. On the 12th of October, which is a Sunday, 5 o'clock, you can go to a James Bond sing-along, and I shouldn't laugh about that. It's in the Mozart Hall, which is the second to the biggest hall.
Come on, it is unexpected.
It's a little bit unexpected. What's unexpected is that I'm constantly advertising different sing-alongs. I love to sing. And so sing-alongs is like kind of like a guilty pleasure kind of thing. James Bond soundtracks. Who doesn't like James Bond soundtracks? You? I don't know.
I don't think I have like very strong feelings about James.
Well,
Bond
I like
soundtracks.
James Bond movie soundtracks. So if you know the words, but I think they do provide text for such occasions. You can go and sing
words?
Your heart out.
Yes,
of course there are words. What are you talking about? James Bond fans.
I'm sorry.
That's the main thing. So if you want to just sing in a big group of people and remain incognito and enjoy, why not the James Bond sing-along? Sounds like fun. Honestly, it sounds like fun. Yeah. I have another concert I'm going to on that day, but maybe I would have gone. I don't know.
Okay.
I like this.
Okay.
So that's it from my part.
Yeah. And another fun evening, if you have kids or nephews or nieces or relatives, cousins of who belong to generation Z or Alpha, it might be, and you would want to introduce them to a world of classical music concert, Baroque concerts, but maybe you wouldn't want to start with most sophisticated Bach work, Messe, or you might go to a concert also in Konzerthaus by star countertenor from Poland, Jakub Józef Orliński, who is going to present a program of works by Henry Purcell, Vivaldi, and Handel in an arrangement for voice, piano, bass, and drums. So the countertenor, he's also a fashion model and also a breakdancer. Although he's very modest about his breakdancing, he just said that he loves the community, he loves the music, and it's more for his mental health, but sometimes he incorporates that on stage, in the opera, and so he's usually introduced at the door for the younger generation who would attract audience, but of course a very good singer. And maybe you will create a memory that you will cherish.
In other words,
later.
Compliments to Konzerthaus.
Yes.
For coming up with pretty diverse and very interesting program.
That's true. That need to be said.
You really you really can find a lot of things for any taste.
Absolutely.
From quests to breakdance to James Bond. What's not to like?
Exactly. And Debussy and Brahms.
And from this, we're going to move on to the next segment.
Yeah, we will talk a little bit about the event we attended. It was a podium discussion in the State Opera House that we mentioned last time.
Dialogues on the lion sofa. So nothing can be more opposite to the breakdance and countertenor concept
than dialogues
on a sofa with lions.
But there are sofas with lions. This is
what I was going to say. Like, you think it's like a metaphor or there are some lines involved. No, this is like 5-meter long red couches.
Two very nice
of
ones,
them,
I need to
with
say,
actual lions.
Maybe someday we will get this sofas with lions.
So this is like the completely opposite coin of the classical music world. Snobbish, stuffy, intellectual, conservative.
But of course, we are making fun of stuffy. No, it's very interesting.
I didn't mean stuffy in a good way, but just like very
stuffy doesn't sound
very conservative, very the opposite of like opening doors to breakdance.
Although the topic is very hot, very important, and in general I enjoyed so much.
Let's mention the topic first.
Yes, sure, please.
So the topic was the reopening of the Opera House in 1955 after the war. As probably many of you know, the Opera House got highly damaged, not really fully destroyed, but very damaged during the bombardment of Vienna. And this was devastating for the citizens, obviously, and they took it harder, as was mentioned in this discussion, than the destruction of basically any other cultural monument in the city. That this one really broke the Viennese hearts, and so the incredible efforts were made, even though the money was tight, to recover the theater. And so in 1955, the huge celebration and really a monumental deal was the opening of the theater. For those of us who have older friends in Vienna, they might tell you how it felt and what it was like for the Viennese to have the Opera House back. And usually people only concentrate on the positive aspects of this reopening. However, there are, as with everything, negative sides, but it seems like in this case the negative sides were not even very little and not even like the normal amount of them, and they were often swept under the rug. So what I think both of us can say really appreciated in this discussion, that it was an attempt to also shed light on this other side, on this darker side of this opening, and to have like a very honest and balanced discussion without like the pink glasses on.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so it was the destroyed Opera House was even more devastating for Viennese than the main cathedral of the city, and then the Burgtheater. And but of course there are many questions regarding who led the reopening, like the new direction, the new of the Opera House, and the cast, and the most important is that nobody was invited from all the people, all the Jewish people who had to flee Vienna, and no one was invited to come back to Vienna for a very, very long time. And even like Arnold Schoenberg, when many years later, when there was a question that he would come back, or at least like for some time, there were no apartment for him, nothing, and it's very, very sad.
Yes, this is everybody openly talks about how much the city has lost. Of course, I mean, even like in not just human terms, but even like in artistic, so to speak, value, also arts, sciences. I mean, art sciences, not also, and any other field, including, I don't know, culinary. This just beside the human tragedy of it.
It's incredible just to imagine how the city would be today if nothing like that happened. Yeah. Because I personally feel that. I mean, people who lived here for a very long time, who are from here, they say that the Vienna of the 80s is a completely different city. But even Vienna of 15 years ago is a very, very different city. And it just starting to bring all the diversity and the talents By
nature,
back.
Vienna is a very cosmopolitan, national, multilinguistic also. Viennese dialect, heavily influenced by different Eastern European languages. It is a city that is a melting pot, that is diverse, especially for music. For hundreds of years, there have been musicians from all sorts of backgrounds coming and mixing here. And so, of course, it greatly suffers from that. But this was a very deep discussion. This is a very deep topic that maybe one day we can talk about more. This is, of course, not something to mention in brief and in passing. But we invite you, if this is something that interests you, to check out this topic more on your own, because there's really a lot. And the reconnection of Viennese, in this case we don't talk about musical scene, with the artists of Jewish origin, Austrians who fled at least to America, was not a smooth, not an immediate, and in some cases non-existent process, which is quite a surprise. But such is the tragedy of those times. Not to finish on this very depressing note.
I mean, what can we say? Something positive about the reopening that it was extremely popular, of course, among the population, and the lines for the Stehkarten, for the standing tickets were like you had to start standing like 2 weeks before the event, like day and night, in order to have a chance to get there.
Vienna State Opera, of course, reestablished itself as one of the leading opera houses of the world, which it remains today. It is a big privilege and honor to have such a theater in the city, so close and available to us. So we really invite you to go there at least once a season as a big treat for something lovely and something that will lift your spirits in unpleasant weather.
Yes, that's true. And next time, I guess we will be reviewing opera performance, right? We have a plan to go
we're
to
looking
one
forward
of
to
that.
And
yes, sorry.
No. I was just going to say we'll see you in the next episode. Once again, if we cross paths in any of the presentations, please feel free to say hello.
And we appreciate your comments a lot that we are receiving about you attending the events and reading some of the books we mentioned. And so it's always
a huge
fun.
Pleasure.
It's always fun.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thank you
See
for
you in the
watching.
next one.
Bye.